Welcome to Ask the Expert, a web series designed to provide you with practical information on business and finance. I am your host, Nicole Pride. So today I am super thrilled to introduce to you our special guest, Janel Sealy Smith. Janelle is a powerhouse in the hair industry, let me tell you, with over 20 years of experience as an award winning hair sculptor. Her innovative techniques, her entrepreneurial spirit, her philanthropic efforts have made her a true force to be reckoned with. From styling for major music videos and fashion shows to running successful businesses and giving back to the community, Janelle's journey is nothing short of inspiring. And we're just so happy to have her here today. So, welcome, Janelle.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, this is great. This is going to be so much fun. So
Yeah.
let's just start at the beginning. So, Janelle, like, how did you get into like hair care? What drew you to the industry?
All right. So what got me into this industry, I could honestly say that outside of knowing that this was my calling from God, I did a little self-reflection about 5, 6 years ago, and I think it had something to do with my grandmother. My grandmother being from Venezuela, her hair was all the way down to her knees. And
Wow.
as a little girl, yeah, as a little girl, I used to run my hands through her hair strands and braid it into one braid because it was still fine, and braid it into one braid. And I think just touching the hair, there's something about, I don't know, the energy, like just touching the hair. Like my mouth waters. It sounds crazy. It's just like I got goosebumps too. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
just love the feeling of hair. And so I kind of think that it tied in. It tied in. So but I definitely know that it's a calling. So as a little girl I started in elementary school. When they found my autograph book, they said things like, when we grow up, I want you to do my hair for my wedding. And I did accomplish about two
Oh,
classmates from elementary school. Yeah.
that is so amazing. So this is very much tied with your purpose and who you are
Yeah.
down to your core, because I can tell you my mouth does not water when I do hair. And in fact, I was so super happy that I had boys initially because I'm like, oh, I don't have to do hair. But then the game changed, with the
Listen.
twists and all that. So I'm doing hair.
Hair, you're doing hair now. Oh my God. Unlike me, who is this big hairstylist, and I have a daughter and a son, and my daughter hates getting her hair done. So it's
Oh,
it's like I'm like, do you know who I am?
right.
She refuses. Crazy.
Wow. So, that explains a lot, Janelle. Like, if it's in your core, then you had no option but to be successful. Because I'm just super
Yeah,
curious about how did you make a space for yourself in such a crowded market?
yeah.
As I was sharing earlier, the stats are ridiculous. So in the
Hmm.
US alone, for this year, we're on track to have a $16.73 billion market this year in the US.
Yep.
Yes. And then that's for hair care. And then when you broaden it to cosmetology with hair care and other products, it's even larger. It's like 93 billion. It's like ridiculous, it's ridiculous.
It's
So
crazy.
in such a crowded market where there's so many products on the shelves and
Yeah.
a lot going on, how did you make a name for yourself?
I am like a marketing, I don't know. I go crazy. From
Mm.
since I was young, I was never afraid of much of anything. Like I grew up, my father was a pastor, and
Oh.
so I grew up in the church. He was the type to be like, "Oh, this Sunday we're on the way to church. This Sunday you're standing in front of the church and you're gonna be singing Yes Jesus Love Me." And I'm like, "Oh, oh, really?" So like I was always put in front of crowds. I
Mhm.
had no problem talking or performing or anything. And I knew that it was, and church is almost like a place where from the pulpit, from the altar, you have to captivate your audience. And
Mhm.
whether it's through song, through a word. And so I think it was just embedded in me to be able to captivate people through even my styling or my actions. And of course, like at hair shows, I put it on more. Through marketing, I knew how to attract the audience that I want. There's
Mm,
so many different techniques I can do, but I know what audience I want in my salon and what
mm,
audience I rather just do corporate, what audience I
mm,
just work editorial. And,
mhm.
and so I know how to market. And so that's been the way that I keep myself present. I refuse to let them call me auntie hairstylist. These people, they so wicked on this social media. They're like, oh, auntie know how to do hair. I'm like,
You're
auntie?
like, who's I? And I'm no one's I.
I'll
So
spin circles around these kids.
you said so much in your last
Yeah,
statement. I mean, just oh my goodness. Okay, so first, just the fact that, old school church is a training ground, right? Not just for
for everything.
just spiritual formation, but
Yeah,
also in presentation and connecting with
presentation.
people from heart to heart, right? And so
Absolutely.
you brought all of that along with you into your marketing, knowing how to connect with your
Absolutely.
audience. And I
Yeah.
think, for anyone who's interested in marketing or strategic communications, having
Mhm.
that authentic connection to your audience is
Mhm.
everything, right?
Everything.
Is everything because your audience would be able to detect in a moment when you're being fake, when you're just
Faith.
doing it for anything other than passion,
That's
right?
right.
And that I think is probably one of your biggest, attributes that helps you move forward in the space
Absolutely.
in a dynamic way. Yeah.
And so in everything that I do, I ask God, use me in this moment when I come on Ask the Expert. Lord, whoever needed whatever word, just speak through me because I could come
Mm.
here talking here logistics and talk about the occipital bone and the chemicals and the blah blah blah, and they'll be like, it didn't hit, but somebody will get from here. I'll keep them going, pushing, or joining this entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so you mentioned some technical things, right? So first, let's just talk
yeah.
about your products, right? Jazz
Yes,
products, right? So tell
yeah.
us a little bit about that. What does your product line entail?
So Jazz Products was birthed because I was actually an affiliate to another hair company, and I started selling their products in the salon. And then one day I had a client complaining, saying that that product was breaking her hair out, and I just didn't believe her. Why I didn't believe her is because I knew the history of her hair, not only her hair, her family's hair, and they all kind of struggled because of culture. They did a lot of weaving and extensions using glue and chemical products, relaxers and everything. So their hair never would flourish because after I do their hair in the salon, they go home, they add tracks and touching up their edges. So when she said her hair was falling out and blaming it on the product, I was like, girl, what you did to your hair? And it was maybe like a year later, not realizing that I haven't even seen her in a year. I was in I had a drawer with costume jewelry, and I went in to get a necklace, and there was this like black tarish material on one of my necklaces, and I
Mm,
started digged up everything to find a sealed, unopened bottle of the product. It was a
mm,
serum entangled in my jewelry, and the
mm.
liquid through the bottle, through the dropper, melted the dropper.
Ooh.
And when that, exactly. So when that happened, I said, oh my goodness. I broke out Tamara's hair. She came right back to me. I said, it had to do with this product. And when you read the back of the product, it says vitamin A, D, and D, and pure botanicals. What does that mean? And so
Mm.
I went crying to my mother. I was like, Mom, I took Tamara's hair out. This product, I believed in it.
Oh.
I was using I was using this on them. I sold it to them and everything. I said, Mom, what were you using on my hair that had my hair flourishing? Because that's it. I don't believe these people. I want to make it at home and use it. So my
Mm,
mother being from Grenada, castor
mm,
oil, olive oil, coconut oil,
mm,
with the
mhm.
big accent. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what? Let's try it. So we started mixing it. started going back to my books, vitamin E, adding some of that to it. And then I looked into fragrance and seeing if fragrance were harmful and the amount of fragrance I could use. So I started making my own oil. And then
Mm,
I wanted to make it like a butter and started
mhm.
using shea, lanolin, and things that were not necessarily producing health to the hair, but helping with the consistency and not producing harm to the hair.
Right.
And
Yeah.
creating the product that we were able to use on the clothes, and they loved it. And just like there's this movie with Queen Latifah, I forgot the name of it, and she had they call it like I think hair crack, and she started selling it to her clients.
Yeah.
Literally, it was almost like the same thing. They started saying, "Oh, you know, what's that? Can I get some?" So I pour a little bit in a plastic cup. I put a piece of foil on it. I said, "Be careful on your way home." And then I started to think about it. I got a product.
Mm,
Do I got a
mm,
product? And I
mm.
started buying bottles and started filling it, me and my mom at home and making labels. And then people started asking about shampoos and conditioners. And that's when I had to dig deep and reach out to laboratories and be like hands on in it and testing because that was way above my head, knowing what each of the chemicals being placed in the products to help preserve and help activate and all of that. So going in and testing out different things. At first at one point I started with private labeling and then I went in and started doing my own and
Mm.
I absolutely love it. I love the outcome of it and it's a continued growing business.
Janelle, that is so amazing. First of all, one thing that I think is a reoccurring theme with our guests, with you, and I remember Martin Sori saying this too. You're really
Mhm.
driven by passion, like you care about what you're doing, right? And
Yeah.
so there's no quick fixes. Like if you weren't
No.
really genuinely concerned about your client's hair
Mm.
health, and looking into what would be best for your client, you wouldn't come up with the success
No.
that you have now, and
No.
not willing to take the shortcuts. I think it's
Mm.
also super amazing that you started from scratch. You didn't have generations of knowledge about how to develop product, package product. I mean, so how
Nope.
did you even begin to identify the resources to be able to create the product and the laboratories and things like that?
So as a cosmetologist, I'm starting in cosmetology school. We go to hair conventions. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you go to a hair convention, the vendors vary from hair supplies, product supplies, to even
Right.
laboratories, private labeling, business coaches, and everything. So you bump into these flyers and you take them, maybe never read them, but I'm the type that keep like a stack of whatever flyers and I'll go through it like, oh, bottles or whatever. And I found myself going to conventions that were about packaging and
Mm,
packaging conventions have tons of chemicals, whether it's here made in the US all the way to China. It has tons of packaging ideas, different resources, what type of packaging, eco-friendly compared to others and everything. And I end up finding a laboratory that I love to use along with packaging right here in Los Angeles, California.
mm,
And so
mhm.
that I can keep it in the US. But side note, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun. During COVID hit, and they were having trouble giving me my supply, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what's happening? It kind of shifted my whole business, and
Mm,
I kind of started to suspect, without them answering any of my questions, that they were getting their supply from China. So when
mhm,
COVID hit and the supply got stuck, there was, all the rumors of ships stuck on the ocean. I couldn't get my
mhm,
supply and it just didn't make any sense. And I
mhm,
realized that even though I had them as my man, they were probably the middleman, the Chinese
mhm,
brand.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
So,
So that shifts
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, I mean, so again, you're just dropping all kinds of knowledge for our community today. So, the first
Yeah.
thing that I heard you talk about is the need to be associated with the industry association, right? And the knowledge
That's
that you
right.
gain by connecting to industry associations, going to industry events, and you just learn so much
Absolutely.
more about the resources available the network that's within your own industry that you may not be aware of, and that opens your eyes. And then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, supply chain management, right? I think that came to the forefront for a lot of consumers who never really thought about how they get their products, right? Right?
Uh-huh.
But COVID did change all of that, right? So people start to
Yeah.
realize, how does my product get to my home? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So that was
So
that was
I went to
good.
cosmetology school in high school, from the age of 14 to 18. Again, you remember I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. Even though my parents hated where my school was, they were like, "There's prostitutes and drug dealers in that area." You know, I'm like, "Well, they do it here in that school, Mom. I'm going." And so I absolutely went and got it so good. I was safe throughout the whole time. I don't think I ever saw one unless they were my friends and I didn't know that's what they were doing. Sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, going to school that young too is so much more impressionable. And so going to the hair shows and everything, you just want to soak up knowledge. And I kept that with me throughout my years. Even though I'm an educator myself, I soak up knowledge everywhere I go. Even if I'm just passing by, gems drop. I'm always
Mhm,
seeking.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. And so, one of the things that is very impressive about your bio is that your hair sculpting and the awards and the shows that you participated in
Oh
and
my.
the innovations. So, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Love it, love it. Again, from cosmetology school,
Mm.
my teacher is Virginia Orlando. I still am in contact with her, my cosmetology teacher. She just she put a bug in me, not to be afraid of competition. And a lot of people are scared of competition because they're scared of competition, and
Mm.
they don't realize that if they overcome that type of fear, then there's no competition right here in the salon. There's no competition on Instagram. There's no competition anywhere. Because if you learn how to be able to compete strategically, it's like a sport. You
Mm.
train, you
Mhm.
compete, you win, you lose, but when you lose, you still win because you've added another muscle to you, another art, another component of your skill that's just sharpened. And so I became unafraid to lose because I knew I still was winning. And so now it has gotten to the point where even my celebrity clients are like, God, I can't find no other hairstylist like you. You're so fast. So that's because I had to do a full head weave, cut and style it in 1 hour, and be judged by hundreds of my peers.
Mm.
So I'm not afraid of you who's waiting for me to do your hair. I'm not scared. I'm not any of that because if your peers got to judge you, it just builds up another resistance in you. But again, a lot of people are afraid of that kind of competition. And my teacher stimulated that in me. And so I've competed in so many shows, won tens of thousands of dollars, if not $100,000 already over the years. And I love it. It's the creative part because being in the salon, you can get wash and press next, wash and twist next, treatment and trim next. But then you get to go to these shows and add color and sculpt. I recently was featured on the Tamron Hall show,
Mm.
and they asked me to do something big,
Yeah,
and I said, "How big?" They was like, "Go as big as you want." I was like, "Okay." They was
yeah.
not ready. It was not ready for. I don't think I was ready for what I
Oh,
did. But that's another thing, just building things. One time I built Noah's Ark on someone's head.
what?
I mean, forget about it. I had little elephants and horses and everything on top of the boat. It
Wow.
was so beautiful. I gotta do that again one day.
I
But
love
just, be able to put your creativity in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it
Yeah,
sounds like so those competitions were very much training you for your next level and dealing with
I love
celebrities.
it.
And that's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, in a lot of different industries, there are competitions and awards that you have to make submissions. For example, in like PR, public relations, there's competitions or awards where you submit campaigns and things like that. And to your point, it is really good too. even if you don't submit to attend the award shows, because you learn a
And be
lot about
excited.
what other people are doing, and you learn
Yeah.
about best practices that you may be able to incorporate into your own business. So there is just a lot. And then also being a judge in your industry association
Mm-hmm.
awards or competitions, if you're able to be a judge, you can learn a lot too about what people are doing. So it's helpful.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because in the beginning, when you lose, you some people lose, get mad, and walk away. I would have lost and went to the judges like, all right, what could I have done different? Let me know
Mm-hmm.
what your eye, what were you looking for? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and so in the beauty world, it's like, well, we don't want to see the pins. We don't want to see the hairpins. So for me, working with regular clients, I don't want to see the hairpins. So again, the competition world and see what people are judging me by. We want to see a smooth transition. We don't want to see her hair, then we. And so smooth transitions and things. And that just takes you right into the salon and just makes your work more fluid and everything. So I can imagine even in your field, the person who's competing and submitting has opened their mind to being out of the box. And so
Mm-hmm.
you, who didn't submit and you attend, you start to feel motivated and, inspired by some of the things that they did that's out of the box, and it'll help you with your daily work.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Mhm.
So tell me, so how did you get your first celebrity client? What did that look
Woo!
like? Yeah.
All right. So it started with getting my first magazine editorial work. Now there was some smaller magazines who would charge people to put an ad in. They would charge you to come and shoot and everything. You have to pay to get in. And I can't remember who told me. They said, if you gotta pay, it's not the way. And I was like, oh, okay. And
Mm-hmm.
one day, this model called me and said, you do one of my best friends here. And her best friend just got, every time she came, every 6 weeks, she got a relaxer, a treatment, and a trim. That's all she got. But her hair was
Mm-hmm.
healthy and flourishing.
Mm-hmm.
And her model best friend loved her hair and thought that I could be in the magazine. And I was like, wow, she doesn't even have a clue what I can do. But
Yeah.
that alone got
Yeah.
me a referral to shoot for Hype Hair Magazine. Hype Hair Magazine was the one on the newsstands
Uh,
everywhere. Hype
I
Hair.
remember. Yeah.
And yes. And so I was shooting the Hype Hair Magazine, my first time shooting with Vanessa Myricks, who is now a makeup line owner that's
Mm-hmm.
all over the globe, and
Mm-hmm.
Eric Von Lockhart, who was the photographer. And when I got there, I was ready, on time, ready to work. And I took any advice they gave. Oh, this would look good in color. I said, I do color. When I come back next time, I'll bring color. And they were like, oh, are you available? Yes, I am. And then it became a regular thing. So I started
Yeah.
shooting with the magazine a lot. And
Yeah.
even though they never showed my face, they always showed my hand. And this is my left hand. My right
Mm-hmm.
hand has no tattoo, and the tattoo is a long story. But I make sure I position my hand with the comb so
Uh-huh.
that when they see the image,
Your branding. Mm-hmm.
I was branding. I left-handed, holding the comb awkward, but they got the shot. And it would spread around to cosmetologists always recognizes that hand. So even if they didn't put my name, they saw my hand. And
Awesome.
yeah. And so it was at a shoot where the fashion stylist said, hey, can you curl my hair? And I said, sure. And usually you don't want to do any extra work except for the work that you got to do.
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but this time I said, yeah, sure, let me curl it. So, and I put a zhuzh on it. She's like, oh my gosh, I love my hair. Are you available tomorrow? My client needs a hairstylist. I said, sure, actually, I'm available. Who's your client? And she said, 50 Cent.
Oh, there you go.
Mama? I was so excited. I was so excited. And so
Yeah.
that's when I worked my first music video with 50 Cent. And of course, taking care of the models, not 50, but
Yeah.
taking care of the models. And it just kept on moving from there. Then he put me on one of his artists, Young Buck, who was a rapper at the time, and wanted me to braid his hair. And I that product that I used to use, that I was using on everybody, I started
Yeah.
using on Young Buck, and he was losing his hair. It had nothing to do with the product. He was just losing his hair. I'm laughing now because I can't believe I'm gonna say this out loud.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I gave him the product. I gave him a whole package of products, and I was like, "Listen, I need you to go home and use this product regularly, okay, to help stimulate your hair so your hair could grow." Because I believed in it, and he loved that idea. He started using it. He called the heads at the company. Then I got a phone call. You officially now do Unit's hairstyling.
Oh,
And
wow.
so every music video, regular concerts and everything, they were calling me in, and I
Oh,
was
great.
braiding hair, styling. And it stimulated because once you do that, then any collaborations, then I started working with I've done work with Trey Songz, John Legend, Common, Fabulous. So all the guys in the industry I was doing hair for like their music videos. And then
Hmm.
I started meeting women from Bad Boys, Sherry Dennis. I did Dawn of Richards. And again, then you're in the network and it just starts rolling
Right.
because some of the people, like the production assistant, you run, go get me a drink, run, go get me a drink. I'm not that girl. Again, raised in a church with heart. What you want to be when you grow up? Because right now you're an assistant, but you probably want to be a producer. Yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that. And later on, they become the producers and they remember that conversation with me, or they remember the love I gave to them. Can I get you a drink? You don't got to
Right.
get me a drink. And
Hmm.
those are the people that end up calling me later, years later. I'm like,
Right.
you remember me? Didn't even realize I was sowing seeds, throwing it like a flower girl, seeds,
Yeah.
seeds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just kept on spreading to the point that I've done Cardi B, Kerry Washington, Vivica Fox, Saweetie, like name a lot of names, and I'm grateful and to
Mhm.
be continued.
Oh, that's so excellent. And so,
Yeah,
yes, let's talk about your gratitude because you pay it forward and you do a lot of
that's right.
philanthropic work. So can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
So again, raised in the church. A little history about my dad. My dad, he gave his life to Christ in the prison. He did 20 years in prison, 3 years, came out for 6 months, did another 3 years, came out 9 months, and did 14 years in prison from a little
Yeah.
boy to an adult. Gave his life,
Mhm.
changed his life, moved. That was in Trinidad and Tobago. Moved to America. Later
Mhm.
on, met my mom, and here we are, having no clue about that life except for when he talked about it. There
Right.
was no, you couldn't smell the smoke. It was gone. He was a new man, and
Yeah.
I had an amazing childhood with a father who didn't never met his father.
Mhm.
And one of the things he did was go back to the prison
Mhm.
and teach or preach and testify. Look at my life; it has changed and everything. And
Mhm.
one of the first times he had me go back to the prison, I went with him because I love being underneath my dad. It was just amazing to see how many lives are being changed by his testimony.
How old were
And
you when you first went?
forever. I'm talking about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
Wow.
12. He was taking me into prisons,
Wow.
taking me on the streets. We were feeding the poor all the time. And I'm talking about inmates that he knew from the past would be sleeping in the bedroom next to mine in my parents' house. And I knew them as Uncle So and so, because my father, if you need a place to stay, if you need something, you need transition, you need help here. Now, my father was, he didn't play a game, so they respected him. And thank you, Lord. I never went through any, problems, any assaults, anything. Thank you, Lord. But
Mhm.
my father always showed that human being that is homeless on the street is also somebody who was somebody, and something happened that just shook their earth, and that's the reason why they're there. Whether when we see the form, we see how many lawyers or doctors that lost their mind because their child died or somebody died or something.
Mhm.
It tripped them up. They took the wrong drug or whatever. So
Yeah.
it gave us a very human thing. That's why I don't take for granted where I am. A lot of people are like, you're doing so well. I'm like, girl, bye. Anytime now something could happen to me and I could
Yeah.
be there. So I'm grateful for every moment, never boastful, super humble, if humble is the word, and just grateful for every day.
Mhm.
So with that being said, I was like about 16 and my dad took me on a trip to Trinidad and we had to go to the youth training facility to speak. And my father said, today you're going to speak. I was like, what? What am I going to tell them? He said, we're going to pray and you're going to pray and you're going to stay quiet for a couple of hours. We're going to be here in the hotel and God's going to tell you. And I was like, oh, but remember I told you he always put me on the spot. You're
Mhm.
gonna sing today. And
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
was like, okay, all right, God. And it came right to me. You know
Oh,
who I am to them? And like when I stood in front of them, I said, you know who I am? I'm your children. When you change your life here and you grow up, I'm your child. I'm a cosmetology student. I'm doing this, I'm doing that at the time. And I said, and I love my daddy. So I
oh,
am your child who loves you and who's waiting on you to change
ah,
your life.
oh my goodness, Janelle. Mm,
At 16, at 16, I could cry now. And my father
yeah.
was like, and then my father came in with the killer and they were crying, all these little boys.
Oh my goodness. Ah, mm.
Yeah. And
So,
so forever doing philanthropy. But then finally in 2011, 2011, I threw a hair show. It was called Healing Through Hair.
mm,
And the women in the correctional facilities who do cosmetology, I used to go to Trinidad every year and teach them a few things, little fantasy stuff, the stuff that you don't learn every day in cosmetology, the other things. I'll bring some of that knowledge. And I decided to do a hair show for them, 11, 11, 11, and just to show the world that there's artists in the prison. These women are trying to train so that when they come out, you can run their credit. You could say that they're criminal. You won't give them a job, but they will come out as entrepreneurs, ready to work to provide for their family so they won't go back. You know, they
mm.
won't go back to the prison. And so I did it to showcase it. It came with a big hit because I dreamed so big. I was looking for sponsors. I had sponsors pulled out at the last minute. I was swiping credit cards to make sure I fulfill it, but it
Yeah.
was fulfilled and I'm so grateful and to be continued wherever I could help. But I'm still pen paling with some of the inmates. Some of them came out from prison already and it's just moving. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, I mean, if people didn't know you, they know you now, and I'm sure they all have fallen in love with you. So, how can our community support you, follow you? Where can we get your products? Where can we
Yeah.
follow you on your channels? Tell us.
Yes. So on Instagram, I am the real Janelle Smith. I am the same thing on TikTok, the real, and Janelle is spelled Janel, no extra L's. So the real Janelle Smith. And then I'm also on YouTube, and I am Jazz Product Line, www.jazzproductline.com for the products. Otherwise, you can follow us on Instagram also at Jazz Products.
And that's
Yeah.
JASS, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
and it's an acronym for just a simple solution, or also Janelle Sealy Smith.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. This has been such a wonderful conversation. You are spectacular, Janelle. I'm telling you,
Oh my
you're very
gosh,
special.
thank you.
Is there any final word that you want to leave with our community before you say farewell for now?
It doesn't matter what you are in life. You could be a dog walker, you could be a house cleaner, hairstylist, actress, lawyer, teacher, whatever. Let God use you so that you can feel the purpose that's within you and be able to bless somebody else. That's it.
All right, folks. There you have it. That concludes another episode of Ask the Expert. We're so happy you joined us today. Join us next week, same time, same place. Talk to you later. Bye.